time no see.
Yeah. What's it been? 2 weeks?
Two consecutive weekends of rail fanning. How couldn't you love it? Welcome back to the Sunshine State Rails. If you've been on this channel more than a couple weeks, you should know exactly where this is. 26th Avenue in Bradenton, Florida, the stem to the Tropicana rail yard. And we started the video off with a reunition between me, a friend Danny, and a new friend of ours from the crew of 0823, who was conductor of 823 when we caught it a couple weeks ago. And now he's on again, as we take interest in their train once again this Sunday as they backed onto the loaded consist with CW40-9 number 9015 to be their northward leader. In the event that the hype hasn't spread all the way around yet, 9015's a big deal to us since the majority of the Dash 8s and 9s on CSX's roster that went into storage in April of 2020 have been pulled back out and are now back on revenue trains. Adding to that many of these locomotives still wear Yellow Nose 2 paint, such as this one, and they're from the 1990s, so even with their calendars lengthened, their days are still numbered. So we try to bag as many as we can while we can. Now crossing 9th Street, the juice train as per usual is nothing special. 6 reefer cars and 4 miscellaneous freight cars. And as I mentioned before, the train assembly now takes place on the 26th Avenue crossing than the US 301 crossing, presumably to halt less traffic in the process of doing so. The train will still pull up to the US 301 crossing and stop to get all of its track authorities and bridge permissions before taking off though. And this is 0823, a dance that we've strung a billion times, so I'll try to keep this short. But essentially about 20 minutes go by, they get permission from dispatch to take off, the Big Manatee drawbridge lines and locks, and the train notches out of town. As far as we're concerned today, there's not much to be known about 0823 besides it's pretty much the train designated to work the Tropicana plant these days, and that it's just the local crew making a round trip from Tampa to Bradenton and now on their leg back to Tampa. Really, this was just an opportunity for us to get out and shoot another Dash 9 leading a train, so besides just going out for some special power, there wasn't much else special beyond that, and there is some cooler stuff to be seen ahead, so I'll try to keep this short. Though on the Tampa track, I'll spew out some locomotive specs. Some may have the question, what is the difference between a Dash 8 and a Dash 9 on terms of wide cab units? As both can wear the same kind of paint and almost look exactly the same. The number series distinguishes them on CSX, but beyond that there isn't much to distinguish the two. The Dash 9s are simply a newer run of the Dash 8 models, such as an iPhone 11 compared to an iPhone 10. Though for you nitpickers out there, compared to Dash 8s, Dash 9s are about 3 feet longer body-wise, and the radiator wings are slightly longer as well. The internal workings are just about the same, and while on other railroads the trucks or wheel sets that the locomotives sit on could vary, distinguishing the two, the case isn't so on CSX. I suppose the main hype for CSX fans is that the Dash 9 models are a lot less common than the Dash 8 models, making them simply rarer catches. Alright, enough of that. We're now at the control point of TS, where back in the day the TS Diamond Crossing once was, but nowadays is simply the southern entrance to CSX's Yeoman Yard, which is where under Orient Road, 0823 and other yard jobs can be viewed switching out the yard to build Q442 for later this evening. But our favored crew was done with their work on the rails for this day, and they'd get on a bus and probably head home. But at the other end of Yeoman, another crew would just be beginning their shift, and within 10 minutes we were right back at TS for it. Oh, the train we all know so well from me, 0750. He would be crawling out of TS with CSX 4435, one of only a handful of ex-Conrail GP40-2s on the roster, currently in local service out of Yeoman, pulling 11 loaded rock hoppers down to Palmetto and the Conrad Yelvington distribution center that resides there. We took a lot of interest in that 4435 as the power for this one, so though we had something else to see around Tampa, we'd be back on this guy's tail later today. But one more shot of him down at the Bullfrog Creek just south of Gibsonton. Oh yeah, the Palmetto subdivision would be treating us just fine today. But that was all of him for now. So we'd be on our way back to the northeast. Just a little ways though, to the center of Mango Siding on the A-line. About 1/4 of the way east from Tampa headed towards Plain City, we'd move up here for a curve shot of Amtrak Silver Star 91 about to round the corner with a nice treat today. Rounding the corner at 59 into Tampa, Amtrak 91 would have Phase 2 Heritage Unit number 130 leading. Personally, my first time having shot the engine, it was a nice surprise to have pop up on the radar after we had just hit Tampa. Following it into Tampa, we can see behind a red car at a red light, Amtrak 91 backing out of the Navy Y to back into Tampa Union Station, and here's Tampa Union Station, with Amtrak stopped at the newly raised platform to drop off and pick up some passengers on its way from now here to Miami, Florida, the capital of just about every tow truck TV show in the world. And blasting off now through Ybor City. It was at this time, just after 1 p.m., that our attention would now be diverted back elsewhere. A drive south on US 41 finds us about 40 minutes later in Palmetto. Now back on the tail of that 0750 from earlier. By this time, he had just finished delivering the loads to the Conrad Yelvington industry up on the Parish Spur. And now through the parking lot of the Taylor Fulton Packing House, they now had 15 empty hoppers behind them, rolling now off of the spur, to go down across the Big Manatee River to run the engine around to the other end of the train in Bradenton, and then pull them all to Tampa. Thanks to Danny's incredibly shaky filming, we can see as 750 starts to cross the Big Manatee as we leapfrog it into downtown Bradenton and set up at the intersecting crossings of 13th Avenue and 3rd Street. And dare I say, CSX really needs to get their weed sprayer train back in here. As he rolls down toward the US 41 crossing from earlier this morning, you may notice in his train that he has some new PMRX hoppers, those light gray 8400 cars. These were obviously put into service pretty recently this year, and as for my opinion on them, I feel like they're kind of like the cryotrans reefers that make their way onto 0823 nowadays. Essentially an eyesore. While I think they could look cool on their own, mixed in with the regular rock hoppers, I can't say I like them that much. This crossing's about 1,000 feet away from the US 301 and 41 crossing where the juice train sat this morning and used to for years. This is where 750 will pull down to, since the siding here allows them to take the engine off the bottom end, run it through that side track around their train to the other end, and now pulling it north from that side. .4:25 p.m. 750 makes the same rounds of conversation with dispatch that 0823 did this morning. Permission back north, but mostly with the Alafia River Bridge tender to get that big Manatee River drawbridge back down again. But then for 750 it was the same run as 823, right to Tampa's Yeoman Yard. Just north of Palmetto now, and 750's already hit the ground running. With plenty of time left in their shift, it's obvious that these guys just want to get home and get done. Through Port Manatee, Sun City, and Ruskin. It's obvious this crew had places to be, but if that was the case, so did we, because they were our target for the rest of the evening. And thanks to Danny for recording this little pacing shot here, as I was behind the wheel at this time. Only for so much longer though, as the clouds of the evening and sun soon to set would be upon us. Rolling through Gibsonton, we get ahead of the train one last time to shoot it at a favorite spot of ours before calling it a day. Just about now and the train would be coming up to the south end of Sutton Siding. Only a few more miles to Yeoman, and this would be our last train for today. Until next week.
5012 CS60 4435, approach Palm River.
And a good Sunday morning from Lakeland. Now September 19th, the gang and I are back out trackside to test our luck for the day. And it looked like we had struck it pretty quickly, with Q455 from the night before having apparently run out of crew time and having had to tie down at Lakeland Junction, now sitting here into the daylight of Sunday. This is a mixed manifest train headed to Taft Yard near Orlando, and the Herzog Ballast silver cars are a definite eye-catcher with this one recently, as both CSX and the Florida East Coast Railway have been bringing this ballast to Florida for the Brightline construction as it progresses towards Orlando. The Brightline construction is a whole nother topic for a whole nother video, though this would definitely not be luck struck, as this train would not budge all day. Though pretty quickly afterwards we caught wind of word over the radio of what was about to be a local swap. Two locals in the area were about to switch duties. 0708, which is normally a local out of Winston Yard working west through Plant City, would switch duties with 0719, a local which usually works the other way from Winston down the CH Spur to Eton Park. Essentially, midway through their work, one train would go to do the other's work, and vice versa. So we moved around to Lakeland Connection as we heard 0708 nearing us from County Line Road. He was backing up the hill to the CH Spur to complete 0719's work, and he had the shoving platform, which I still love, on the end for the conductor to take full advantage of. However, with 708 backing up the hill to go do 719's work, we also knew that with that, 719 was on his way west to Cherry to complete 0708's work. And let's be real here, there was nothing else running around here at that time, so we started to make the drive over to Cherry to see just what 719 was up to. And we missed the inbound Amtrak 91 in the process of driving there, because we had traffic lights and he did not. But no biggie, we'd see him again later. Pulling up to the Salmons Road crossing, 719 was already in the process of switching out James Hardy Building Products, and he had a big train with him, so he stretched out all the way across the road. And as he reversed off the crossing, it revealed not 6147, which I would have imagined to be the other engine in the area right now, but rather another ex-Conrail GP40-2, number 4415. With 4435 from last weekend still in Tampa at this time, and now 4415 being based out of Winston, you got two of these ex-Conrail units pretty close to each other. I don't know, I think that's pretty neat. Oh, there's that Amtrak train that we missed. He got clearance to cross the diamond right in front of, guess who? Oh, 0719, that's who. Right behind Amtrak, they were now reversing out of Cherry since the one customer there didn't take them very long to switch. And now reversing back east toward Winston, they'd stop at the top of the hill to switch Park Road and the multitude of industries that reside off the spur there. Quick run back east to Wabash Avenue in Lakeland would reveal 0708, finished with his duties now on the CH Spur and headed back to the yard at Winston. This would be the last train for the middle of the day, so we'd wait for the evening, and I'll add the last two from that on to the end here. For these daytime outings, us being able to see this one is pretty iffy, but here came, just in the nick of time, Q442. That nightly mixed freight train out of Tampa's Yeoman Yard up to Waycross, Georgia's Rice Yard.
Who's got a clear lake wheels in the fit to it, so I don't find out.
With the minutes ticking by and a thunderstorm threatening to ruin the entire thing, the sun came out just perfectly for this one. Headed to Waycross this evening, 442 has a plethora of rolling stock. Of most interest to us was that Yellow-Nose 2 CW40-8 in the second position in the locomotive set. And as for the train, there's nothing too unusual here. A bunch of freight from just about everywhere around. Kotabeaner reefers from Bradenton. That's the only one I know off the top of my head. but all this stuff would have come from somewhere within the vicinity of Tampa, anywhere between Sarasota and Brooksville. Of that usually includes empty auto racks out of the Drew Automobile Distribution Center near Tampa, but 442 has none tonight. We'll see why in just a second. Facebook friend Joshua Kintner calls these last two trains the Tampa 2 because they're the two trains that Tampa sends out of their terminals right around the same time each evening. Q442 and moving down to the Diamond because this next one was waiting for this one to get across the Diamond, Q046. However, there isn't a Q046 tonight. Calling the Diamond tonight was Q144.
19 CSX 3178, clear signal, Plant City interlocking, clear signal, Plant City holdout, southbound out, northbound.
And here is where Q442's auto racks went. Technically, this train is Q046. However, as of Sunday evenings, they're now running him on these nights as Q144, and Saturday nights they're running Q045 as Q145. And the one night a week that each of these symbols are used, CSX can tack extra freight on the top or bottom of the intermodal portions, which are still obviously on there. This is primarily empty or loaded auto racks, however mixed freight can also make it on there too. But just empty auto racks and intermodal containers tonight. I discussed this practice lightly in a video I made about a month or so ago, but this is my first time having seen it in action. To be honest, I kinda like it. This practice is fairly new, being only a couple of months old, so who's to say why they do it or how long it'll last. But my current theory is that they're doing this on the weekends only because the weekends are less busy than weekdays, so trains are shorter, meaning that combining them could take loads off of other trains that don't need them. Because as you may have just noticed, the intermodal portion of Q046 was pretty tiny tonight. So those auto racks at the front definitely made up the majority of his train length. And that, finally, would wrap it up. Just before 7 p.m. in Plant City, all the trains we came to see had come and passed. The innocent can never last. Sorry, song quote. Thank you, Danny, for coming along with us on like every single one of these outings for the past 3 weeks. It has definitely been fun, and let's be real, you'll probably be along on the next one too. And I thank all y'all watching for virtually coming along for the ride as well. It sure is fun, and we'll be back pretty soon. So this is Kotabeaner, and I'll see y'all then on the Sunshine State Rails.